This is Father Jonathan, and I want to talk to you for just a second about an upcoming Sunday school class that you're mostly to blame for. This is an end of year finale, our last class of the program year in the month of May. It's a 2-week series called God and Grief. Sorry, God and Gratitude in the Midst of Grief. God and Gratitude in the Midst of Grief. And it's the brainchild. It was planted by parishioners, by you, who came and said, this year sometimes has felt like a million years, and sometimes has felt like a blink of an eye. Can you believe we've been in this pandemic for more than a year? And the strangest thing, you told me, the strangest thing is that there are so many things from the season that has been so unspeakably difficult, that I'm really grateful for. So many things that God has shown me, and so many ways that God has grown me. And even though there are so many things for which I still carry grief, that I'm still lamenting, I am thankful. My heart is thankful, you said. And then you shared more. You said, I only wish there was a way we could collect these twin realities, the twin realities that grief and gratitude so often live so close together, and share them together as a form of prayer, as a form of thanksgiving to God. And so we thought about that as a staff, in putting together this 2-week Sunday school invitation. And the thing we want to be really clear about it is that it all belongs together. God and gratitude in the midst of grief. You can't name the gratitude without being honest about the grief. The fact that this last year and a half has meant letting go of all kinds of things for all kinds of people. I remember back in early March, the thing I was eyeing was a continuing ed trip to Georgia to hear some of my favorite preachers. And it was in late May. And so there was a chance it was going to happen, I thought. And canceling those plane tickets, getting a refund for the trip, was one of it was the first real grief. Looking back now, it was the least of the griefs that the season would ask of me. But I can't name my gratitude, my unspeakably deep gratitude for the love and outpouring of the community of faith, for example, without naming my grandfather's death to COVID in November that precipitated it, or the miscarriage Rebecca and I experienced, and the tremendous outpouring of love for which we're so grateful that occurred in response. So we want to not just, in this invitation that I'll make a little more clear than these ramblings just now in a second, but it's not just an invitation to look back at the last year and a half with rose-colored glasses, but to be honest about those things that we've missed, and those things that we've had to put down, those things that were taken from us that we didn't have a choice about putting down, and the great but and also of faith, naming those unexpected gifts that the season we did not control revealed to us, that God revealed to us in this season. So that's the idea. We're going to, for 2 weeks, May 16th and May 23rd, during the Sunday school hour at 9:30 a.m., streamed to YouTube and Facebook. We're going to explore the shapes of that in our church life, as a church family, but also in our individual lives. And we want to invite your help in that. I want to especially invite you, if you feel led, to share your gratitude discovered in the midst of grief in a short video that you can send to the Dropbox collection site. The link you can find with this video in the description. And I ask you to keep it to around 30 seconds or less, so that we can include as many snippets of these as we can over the 2 weeks. But a way to kind of give each other a glimpse into the burdens that our sisters and brothers in the community of faith have been carrying, but also the tremendous joys and unexpected surprises God has shown us when we very much least expected it. And we'll be sharing some as a staff in the first video, in the first class, and gathering your other collected reflections. We'll be sharing those both May 16th and May 23rd, sprinkled out over the 2 weeks. I hope that's enough of a beginning of an imagination for what we're going for, to make the invitation clear. When in doubt, share something you feel comfortable with, or give me a call, reach out, send me a note, and ask whatever clarifying questions would be helpful. But we would love for as many folks as possible to take us up on this and to kind of get your mind going a little more. Some of you might be like, I don't want to share a video. You could share a photograph or a couple photographs. And so I have some that I want to share with you right now. Let me see if I can pop over just as a spurring of the imagine for what this year has meant and all the things it's included. This is just the Holy Trinity by the Lake video page that we're looking at right now. Here is the burial office read last week for Barbara Jane Stenberg, one of 12 parishioners that we lost that was part of our common grief at Holy Trinity by the Lake, and she died of complications related to COVID. But then scrolling down sermons, this is Bishop Sumner preaching, Veterans Day special events highlighted from across the year, services, the Love Thy Neighbors series, and the ongoing outreach work that continued and indeed intensified for our parish throughout this pandemic season. One of the really wonderful collaborative ways we were able to put our heads and hands together to the glory of God and to serve our neighbors in need. Invitations to the upcoming Poetry Slam, more services and classes, the resurrection stations in which 14 of you shared from your heart little glimpses into what the resurrection, how it sheds light on the life you live day in and day out between Sundays. Music for meditation with Lauren. There's Lauren and her mother, Father Keith, sharing about the invitation to one of the drives that became so much a part of our common life during the season. More music and services, more collections, distribution of firewood during that winter storm. Christmas on hay bales, a very windy Christmas on hay bales for those of you who were there. Other Sunday school classes and songs, commemorations, going back to church. That was 28 weeks ago. Can you believe that? This latest season we've been in was 28 weeks ago, which is half a year. So someone remarked to me the other day, they said, well, Father Jonathan, I feel like you and our friendship has grown a lot during COVID. And I said, yes, me too. I feel that too. And it's true. Most of my friendships here have grown a lot during COVID because COVID has been most of the time that we've had to share these friendships. Some more Sunday school classes. Here you can see Andre sharing as part of the Living Faith series. Lauren sharing, Father Keith inviting final thoughts on the Love Thy Neighbor series. More collecting, and months and months of collecting for the area community ministries. Highlights of the Love Thy Neighbor series with One Man's Treasure. And I think we just passed Casa in the Rainbow Room over there. So many things for which to be thankful. And here, the burial office, griefs to carry, loves to name. I don't know if this was the first one, but you remember Zoe was the first preacher for us during pandemic. She was on the end of this desk right here with her notes as we were all still figuring out how the technology worked. And you're seeing a bunch of iterations of worship during all these slides. Let me hop on over now here and see if I can share another thing with you. So I was going through some old photos too of what this year and a half has held. And we have worshiped not just throughout the pandemic, but in so many ways during the pandemic, right? Like this is a picture of worship. And so is this. And yet another way we worship. And yet another way we worship. And I think that was one of the very first ones, Father Keith and I there with our janky lighting setup. Yeah, another, like there has not been one way, but there have been so many ways, a diversity of experimenting and adapting and evolving and growing as we have continued to lift up our prayers and praises, to lift up our hearts. And as the Eucharist reminds us, every time we lift up our hearts, we're lifting up that bread and the wine, we're offering it. The bread and the wine, of course, are symbols of our life and labor on all the days between Sundays. So many ways our worship has evolved to help us lift up our hearts continuously without a break during this season, and for all the things that it's meant for each one of you and each one of us individually, collectively. And then, of course, outside of worship, the gatherings. This is Thea welcoming us to Theology on Tap the other night. This was, I want to say, early on. It didn't feel so early on at the time. Right about Pentecost and all the heads of ministry stepping forward virtually to indicate where they were and what they were up to. This is my father-in-law and my family watching one of our services from home while I wasn't there. My godson in Pennsylvania following a service. Julie Zurich hosted several social events. You see in the bottom right-hand corner there. This is the Easter egg extravaganza. She also hosted the drive-by Halloween event, and it kept us gathering however we were able to gather. This one most recently, as full as we had been permitted to gather up until that point. And then, of course, the youth here with Sally and others, Janet and Amy, with food collecting. And this top right here, a whole host of visitors from across the country who have joined us to inspire us with stories and classes as our guests in worship and in other settings. And then this is all of you. Oh my goodness, this is all of you. And this one was like from 6 months ago. We could add to it. It's kind of like John's Gospel. If everything that was done were written in a book, the whole world wouldn't be able to contain all the books. And I feel so much about your creativity and your life and your learning and your prodding, your ideas and innovation during the season. It's been beautiful and humbling and inspiring, even though it's not been a season any of us would have chosen. So I'm going to stop that sharing there and go back to the big screen. So that's a little bit just to kind of get the gears turning. A season of grief, no doubt, also a season of unexpected gratitudes and encounters with God along the way. So if you are inclined to share what God has shown you from your perspective, from your perch, from where you've been, we would love to hear those stories. Again, the link is right there in the description. You can just drop a video, or if you want to share a photo and include a couple of lines that we can read on your behalf. The two dates we'll be sharing those are May 16th and May 23rd at the 9:30 Sunday School Hour. So maybe let's say by May 19th, because you don't have to have submitted it by the first one, but by May 19th will give us a chance to include all of them for the second one for sure. And we will delight to hold those stories of grief and gratitude together as the body of Christ over this special 2-week series that marks the end of our Sunday school year before we go on a hiatus to transition to other kinds of programming for the summer and pick it up again in September. Thanks for watching, friends. I hope you will consider, because I believe very strongly that God has shown you something. So many of you have shared the some things that God has shown you. And those some things are gifts for all of us, for the world. And the blessing you are as you share those is just more than you can know. So take good care, friends, and we'll talk soon. Peace.